So, as we live our life, the question comes, how do we live life? How to live life? There are so many ways, so many institutions telling us what to do, what not to do, and millions of places, clinics, retreats, all that showing up, art of living, and our parents teach us, teachers teach us, and of course, scriptures galore. There are so many of them telling us what to do. Buddhism alone has 33,000 instructions in each situation what to do. Christianity has their 10 commandments. So the suggestions always come from outside, and that puts you in charge as far as how to live life. So if you really look at the question, is kind of oxymoron because that puts you in charge. So you are supposed to be in control of the life to really live life. The question is, are you living life or the life is living you? When you were born, you had no control. You were just pushed down onto the earth. You had no social security number. Somebody gave you the social security number. You had no clothes on. Clothes were given to you. You kept on getting hungry. You kept on eating. The body kept on getting bigger. We have really no control on a lot of things that we really are happening in our body. We don't know our time of death, and yet we are supposed to know how to live life. So life seems to be a lot bigger and more powerful than you and I are. So who are we to really decide how to live life? So the question is that if there is something bigger and more powerful than us, won't we want to know what it is, how is it, in what form it is? Maybe it looks like it's not really how to live life, but how not to really live life and flow with the life that is a lot bigger than that is confined between birth and death. Because there are a lot of things. You try to stop your heart, you can't. Try to stop breathing, you can't. Try to stop your hunger, you can't. There are a lot of things which are beyond your control, and yet we are told, do this and do this and do that. So putting all these scriptures together and all the Dharma Guru's instructions and all that really seems like a waste of time, really. So we have to search what really produced us and what's going to consume us. Something that is a lot bigger, a lot more powerful than you and I or anybody else in the world combined, and even more. And Krishna says he's the owner of crores of universes. So it's not even restricted to one universe, but it's billions of universes. So the question comes in, how do we find it? How do we find that source which has created this life, is perpetuating this life, and it's going to end the life, at least for us, and yet the flow will go on. So that flow is something that we need to know, we need to learn, we need to synchronize, do something. The question is, we are tiny human beings. How can we really know such a big flow of life? So life has made some adjustments. Yes, it created all this unnecessary garbage, what I call, of knowledge that has polluted our minds, because we were born innocent, then a lot of things were thrown on us, and we think that that knowledge was helping us, but it only divided us. Somebody became Hindu, somebody became Christian, somebody became, and yet before we were born, none of us had any identifications. All these identifications were thrown on us, and that itself has become a problem in disidentifying ourselves with what we think we are and what we want to know what we are. So it's like if a child comes to me and asking for a toy and I give him a gun, that's where I'm asking for trouble. And that's exactly what has happened. Look all over the world. Nuclear wars are almost on the brink of happening. It's all because of so-called religions. So identification is really not the way to really live life. It's the disidentification is what we're really looking for. So when it really comes to that point, the only thing that's really gonna help you is meditation. Meditation is a process where you disidentify yourself. And yeah, it's not gonna be easy. Disidentifying with the body that you've been holding on to for all these decades, and even worse, disidentifying with the mind that you've been holding on to, which has vrittis and vasanas and desires, and that was the whole reason you took this life, first of all, to fulfill those desires. So this go way back multiple lives. How do you disidentify with them? So the pathway is not going to be easy for sure. But there are shortcuts available. There are ways available. God has not left us alone in dark. So the question is if infinite life is in front of us, how do you live life? How do you flow with the flow when you don't even know what you're flowing with? So infinite is not something you can grasp, because so far we have only body and so-called mind, that so-called intelligent mind, but it still falls short of. It cannot comprehend the infinite, because body and the mind are finite. Everything has their limitations. So with the instrument that we have, which are very limited instruments, it's gonna be impossible to get a grasp of the infinite. So you break it down, and the breakdown happens down to the seconds, microseconds, or something that you cannot even name it. In English, they have a word called meter. Meter is to measure. So all the moments that we see around and pass through around, the life is divided into billions and billions of moments which are passing through in front of us. But each moment we try to measure it, and it can be measured if we have sensitive atomic clocks, and we can break it down into 0.00001 seconds maybe. But still, there is something, by the time you turn the instrument, that one kulp, that Jains say that kalpa, is the shortest or the smallest fraction, unit, that cannot be measured. So something that is beyond the grasp of the finite. And when that moment you want to measure it, measuring takes place at the mind level, or the instruments created by the mind and the body, but something escapes us. So the only thing you can do is be with it. So to be in the moment and experiencing the moment seems like the only way is a gateway into the infinite, because infinite does divide itself into so many segments, and each segment can be lived but cannot be measured. The measuring is done by the mind and the body. How does the measuring takes place? With the utilization of the time. If you look at the time, what is time? Time is distance between past and the present, present and the future, past and the future. So all those are creations of the mind. So the mind creates time. So the time is ultimately a product of the mind. It's a figment of imagination. If we all are here right now, everybody is in a full state of consciousness. The life that is flowing in you, in everybody else, in the air, in the building, the computers, cell phones, all that life has put all of us together in this particular moment. 2 minutes, 10 minutes, 15 minutes later, you try to remember this particular event, it's not going to have the same consciousness that it is present right now. So we know the consciousness does exist. But when we try to remember things from the past, we really have to work hard. We have to utilize our mind to bring it from the past. So it's an effort. And for that, mind has to use an instrument of thoughts. So it has to think of the moment that was past 5 minutes, 15 minutes, 2 years, 15 years. And then we worry about the future based on the past because something we liked that happened, we don't want that to happen again. So we are occupied thinking of the future. So our mind oscillates all the time. So mind divides the consciousness into something that's already past, something that's yet to come, and yet we have no control on any of this thing. Past, is gone. Future is not here. We can't control what's gonna come. So we really wasting so much time in the form of thoughts. Thoughts are continuously keeping us occupied. And in that, what are we missing is the present. The present, which is full state of consciousness, we are missing it. So to be in the present seems like the only way to really connect with the infinite consciousness that is present all around us. The total consciousness which was ever present is present right now. Consciousness only knows the present. The mind knows the past, mind knows the future, and mind knows the whole spread between the all two, and a continuous breaking point never really comes to the center because center is clouded. The clarity of remaining in the present is distorted with the dirt and the cloudiness of our mind. So how do we remove the clouds and how do we really penetrate beyond the mind? So the meditation has the tool of observation where we basically just observe the thoughts and little by little things start filtering, and by being a witness you see the whole play, the dance of the mind, which seems to be so futile because it doesn't really take us anywhere. Either we go into the past or we go into the future, not remaining in the present. So the mind creates a web of fascination where we get fascinated and we keep looking at the sansar all the time, and our mind, our consciousness is running towards outside, never really settling in itself, because the consciousness that is everywhere else is also within us, and that consciousness that needs to be observed. By folding ourselves back into that state, we can start getting into the consciousness. If we remain aware, the trick of the mind. So how do we still remain in the present moment? And you might say not use the mind, because we use mind for everything. Okay, 15, 20, 30 minutes of meditation, understandable. But how do we function outside when we really have to be active? To be active, we need the mind, we need the body, we need the commands, we need the thoughts to function in the society. So we are not saying that the mind has to disappear. Mind will stay where it is, but you will be in charge. So what to think becomes an issue rather than the mind deciding what to think. So channelizing your thoughts and putting them in a proper synchronized fashion is what is learned in the meditation. So Krishna says, do everything but offer everything to me. So the first goal of the meditation is to know yourself. The soul which is beyond, which is the source of consciousness. If we can somehow, with the gradual practice of witnessing, we can throw ourselves into this big storehouse of infinite source of consciousness that is within us. Once we get into the thoughtless state, and that's where the fun starts. That's not where everything ends. That's not a game of end by itself. But that's where you realize the potential of your true self. Because so far you were identified with the body, with the mind, and then whatever you identify with, you try to protect it, obviously. So all the pleasures of the body became your pleasures, all the pleasures of the mind became your pleasures. The ego, which was the totality, the total creation, keeping the body and the mind in question, everything so far has gone into protecting your ego. Nothing wrong with the ego. Ego is needed, but it's an illusion that we all are living in. Until we break that illusion and know that it is an illusion, you cannot come out of it. And the only way to know illusion is to know the truth. When you know the truth, you know what is false. Until then, that is your truth. So this identification of the body and the mind is extremely important. But that's not where the problem ends. Once you realize the consciousness has to start reflecting outside. And whatever you do has to be functional and practical and compatible with the well-being of the society, where everything taken into account and the consciousness is still functioning. When you dissolve the ego, the consciousness is not going to let you rest. It will still make you do the things which is beyond your ego, which you were doing so far for your personal selfish reasons, but now you'll be doing for the world and for the universe. It's the experience that you actually go through where your universality gets experienced in the deeper states of meditation. And once that happens, you just cannot sit quietly. It just has to flow. So to remain in the present is, Krishna said, there are 5 duties which I have assigned to you, something that you are born with. That's what he calls dharma. Dharma is not religion. Dharma is your basic nature, where something that you are born with and you cannot change. As a male, if you are born as a male, you have to be the best possible son, you have to be the best possible brother, husband, father, and then 5th is whatever profession you choose, you have to be the best possible. So doing your duties as you are living in your life and with the total integration of the full consciousness, utilizing your mind and the body and remaining totally fully aware of your role in the society is the ultimate spiritual way of living life in the society. So yesterday or this morning I posted a video on our site. The experience is only. I have a mailbox, and there were honeybees who were trying to make a honeycomb. It's been going on between me and the honeybees for the last 5 years now. And finally the truth has started revealing out. There was a time when they were hovering around my mailbox. And suddenly I realized there's something going on. So I looked inside. So a couple of bees attached themselves and they were trying to build a honeycomb. I said, this is going to be a major issue because I have to put the mail in and out all the time. Mailman has to put the mail in. I have to take them out. And what if I get stung? So I said, this is not good. So I didn't know what to do. So I took some papers and tried to shoo them away, and they won't go. So I went to Home Depot and got one of the spray. I said, I have to spray so it becomes incompatible for them to make a honeycomb. While I was doing that, a couple of them did not like that idea. They gave me a big stung, right?
Oh, yeah.
So I got stung big time. So, and once the honeybee stings, it dies. So I became responsible for deaths of at least 2 honeybees that I remember. But I had no really regard for any of these things, not even thinking about all these things. But that year I was successful. Honeybees did not build the honeycomb. So I said, I win, and the whole life has to go on as usual. I'm fine. I protected myself, my family, because they also pick up the, for the mail and all that. So next year, the honeybees came back again. So I quickly ran
Probably
to get the
too
spray. But I looked up. No, it's because it's a dome.
Okay.
And it has a center which is protected from the air, from the wind, from the rain, from the light, too much light. So it was a perfect spot, they thought, right? So I looked inside, but this time I was late. Already almost 60-70% of the honeycomb was already built up. Now I had no courage to spray with the killer spray. I said, I'll be killing, not only I'll be stung, of course, but on top of that, I'll be killing the babies. The honeybees are protecting their babies. And that's the reason they had attacked me, thinking they wanted to build the honeycomb, and they thought that I was coming in the way. So they sacrificed themselves for their babies. So now the honeycomb was already built up, So I had no courage to spray anymore. I said, well, I have to let it go the way it is. I will see what happens. So every time I would come and try to pick up the mail, I'll take one mail at a time. It will take me almost 5 to 7 minutes before I collected all the mail. And I put a note outside for the mailman that please be careful, there is honeybees and all that. So second, third year it went on. And it started becoming that every year they're gonna come, and I had no really courage to do anything with that. So then a couple of times I even forgot to put the note. The note that I had left got washed away by the winter storms and things like that. So the next year I forgot to put the note, and then I even forgot that. So sometimes I will just open the door and grab and making a lot of loud noise and pick up the mail, couple of ruffling and this. But honeybees did not really care. As long as I did not directly attack them or harass them, they had no problem. So I said, let me just see what's going on. So I put my phone inside and took the whole video. And you literally see how the honeybees are so occupied, totally occupied without any noise. They're just going around, taking places, sealing this chamber, that chamber, and all these things. So they're totally engrossed being themselves. They were the mothers taking care of their babies. If I'm trying to reach to a totality, the consciousness is the wholeness. Each moment is divided, and each moment is available to me. And if moment is the only approach for me to connect with the totality, and if I'm trying to be total, why am I hating these bees so much? Why am I hating this baby so much? Even though I did not have hatred, I had at least vision to protect my family. But now I realize that there is no reason to protect, because those imaginary fears that I had, that bees will sting me, bees will, but actually there was such a mutual coexistence, totally symbiotic relationship. I provided them shelter and they carried out there, and the life went on by itself. So in life, every single segment of the life, if performs their own duties with total consideration for everything else around, in total symbiotic and mutual coexistence, life can reveal itself. I realized that this is the ultimate meditation that the honeybees were doing. They were totally preoccupied with their babies without worrying about the whole world or anything. And only at the time when they were attacked, they were ready to die for it also, which was such an amazing lessons that I learned. That moment to moment to moment is the way to get into the totality. And in totality, you have to realize that the bee is Brahma. The flowers that it goes to is Brahma. The nectar that it brings is Brahma. Me watching all the play is Brahma.
Yep.
In totality, all these roles are assigned to different objects and peoples and situations. And it's our job to sift through the whole mess of something that is confusing. You put a seed in the ground, the seed is Brahma, the soil is Brahma, the seedling that is coming out is Brahma, and the tree coming out is Brahma. Everything is Brahma. And when we have likes and dislikes for people, we are breaking those things, the totality, into compartments. And the likes and dislikes are done at the mind level, because mind is dumb. Mind does not know totality, because mind itself is the obstruction to the passage into totality. So when we disregard the mind, meaning disregard the thoughts, meaning disregard the past and the future, and we get engrossed in totality, in the present moment, that becomes a doorway into the total bliss, which is nothing but total synchronization with the consciousness. So if we are aware of everything that is happening around us, small things can teach us a lot that you cannot learn in the temples, that you cannot learn anywhere else, not in the books or scriptures. Small things are out there to really
God doesn't
teach
need
us.
temple. Temple
No.
needs God.
Exactly. So let's do that. That way your whole day-to-day life can become meditation, where you totally synchronize yourself with your role that you're playing, where you have nothing for yourself. you are even ready to sacrifice yourself for the cause, just the way bees did it for its own babies. So much for today.